Hello and welcome back to Down the Slope. I'm Ewan. I'm joined by Harry down in London, and I've got Greg up in Edinburgh as well. Just the three of us tonight. Liam is unavailable. Harry, how you doing, man?
Well, you ken the rules, mate. Hibs are bad. Harry's normally bad, but the Eagles won, so fuck the Cowboys. I'm all right, mate. I'm all right.
Do you want me to just leave now, or
No, we don't need to talk about that. We don't need to talk about that. Greg, how you doing, mate?
I'm very good. Probably disappointed at the weekend, but
Aye,
yeah.
aye. It's been an interesting week for Hibs, shall we say, since you guys recorded last Monday. Really enjoyed what you pair, Liam and Ryan, had to say. Obviously, everything was a lot rosier in the garden then. However, listening to the first half hour of that for you for fucking hell, I thought, right, like you predicted, lying on the sun lounger, I thought, right, keep the good vibes going, tune in, and we've got fucking all four of these going. Oh well, I don't really think we've been that good. We've been all right. I was like, oh, fucking hell. But yeah, no, I think something probably what I think you guys did speak about at the time that bad results will come and keeping the head and whatnot. And we've had two sort of stinkers really, Harry, back to get on the back of each other. And
I think I'm two different type. Sorry, two different types of stinkers though. Because
mm,
against Dundee United, I wasn't particularly displeased with the performance, whereas against Celtic, kind of a different kettle of fish. But
yeah.
we'll come on to that.
Well, yeah, no, let's just go straight to that, Greg. It was two really contrasting games. Let's just
Mhm.
touch really briefly on the Dundee United game first. Look, everyone's moved on from that, and there's been another game since, but we were actually pretty good up in Dundee. Let's be honest.
Um, it depends what you mean by pretty good. I think we're pretty good up until
Mm-hmm.
it came to finishing. Ultimately, if you don't score goals, then you're not going to be very good because you're not going to score many goals. But everything else in the final third was good. I was pleased, but again, times last season where the cutting edge just wasn't there, and it's a sort of new group of players, and I felt like it was deja vu last Tuesday. I felt like we struggled again to find the net, which I feel if you look over the games, we maybe have been like that because we're relying on our centre half to score two goals in two games. Fair enough, he's in the right position, but I think I want to see more output from our strikers. To be fair, and I know Johan scored at the
Mm-hmm.
weekend, but ultimately he had three good chances against Motherwell that he's not finished. So I would like to see a wee bit more output from our strikers. But I felt like everyone else was good in the Dundee United game, and I thought up until the final third, we had it pretty much spot on.
Yeah, Harry. Obviously, we did put the ball in the back of the net against Dundee United.
Uh,
For I don't know. I still don't know what it was disallowed for.
So the only thing that's logical to me that it could potentially have been is when Yuan, not the actual overhead kick, but he kind of like puts his hand on the player's shoulder to like balance himself before he goes for it. But the only if that was the decision, why did the ref wait 8 seconds to give it? Because if he gave that straight away, I'd have been like, terrible decision, but at least you've made it. But the fact he lets the ball be kicked, then someone head it into the back of the net, and then start celebrating and then call it. It didn't add up to me. So yeah, someone said that the linesman gave it. I couldn't actually see at any
Yeah,
point the linesman
I
with his
thought I
flag at all.
seen.
So
Yeah, I
it's
thought someone had said the linesman flagged maybe, but
one of football's greatest mysteries, mate. Why Hibbs' goal got disallowed? Because I've honestly no clue at all.
yeah, it's probably one of the biggest cliches in football. But goals do change games. I think at that point that goal stands, and I'm pretty confident that Hibs do go on and win the game. That we take the chances that come in the second half. Now, look, there's no excuse for not taking them. Kukarevic should have had one in the second half at least. At
I
least
thought Boyles in the first half was a
Boyle,
stinker
yeah,
of a miss, to be honest. When he's through on goal and he just drills it straight at the keeper, like you just expect him to bury that.
yeah. I mean, it was a difficult watch in terms. I think fairly quickly in the second half, you probably knew it was going to be one of the nights where, be that through good goalkeeping or poor finishing, we weren't going to hit the back of the net. But I still feel like, given the nature of the performance, Greg, that everyone was still fairly positive going into Celtic Park on Saturday.
Yeah, I think obviously beside the result and the way that we didn't score any goals, I thought that everything else was good. So I felt like there was a general air of positivity about us before Celtic Park, and I was hoping to see more of the same, but with the finishing, including the package, however, we got the exact opposite of what we've seen. Really, we've not, usually we're good with the ball in possession and good pressing, but I felt like everything just went out the window on Saturday, and it was like it's one of the games that can happen. But Celtic haven't really been scoring. You knew they were sort of going to give someone a doing. I was hoping it wasn't going to be us. But there we go.
It is a difficult one, Harry, isn't it? Because you look in, I was going to say, hindsight, even 20 minutes into the game, you're probably sitting there thinking, Johnson's got it wrong, we shouldn't have went to Celtic Park so open. He made one change from the Dundee United game, and then ultimately one change from a team that had been winning sort of prior to that, with McCurdy coming in for you. And I guess prior to the game, as fans, we were probably all pretty happy with the 11. In hindsight, was it naive?
Yeah, I think so. But the thing is, he came into the club when we actually got the chance to speak to him. He said to us, "Look, we're going to play our style of football, and sometimes we're going to go to the big teams and we're going to get battered." I don't think any of us expected it to be quite that bad, quite so quick. But the thing is, for me, it's still near the start of his tenure, so I don't think this is a rule out Johnson. It's if we go to Ibrox later in the season or go to Celtic Park again and get beat by 5 or 6 goals playing the same system, that's when alarm bells start to ring for me. Obviously, you can never take many positives away from getting pumped 6-1, but it's a one-time thing. It's the first time we've conceded more than 3 goals. Like, it's not the end of the world in my opinion. Obviously, it's a horrible result to take, and God bless the fans that travelled through there. But yeah, it's not panic stations for me yet. Celtic at Celtic Park. Some teams, as Greg alluded to, is going to get a doing at some point, and unfortunately, we were on the end of that.
Yeah, Greg. I think during the game, Johnson was getting a lot of criticism post-game. I don't know, people maybe have turned round on that in terms of what he said after the game, but really the players individually, for all the first 3 goals at least, there was pretty much an error from the back line there for all of them, and that isn't really something we've seen this season. I think, just on like what Harry said there, I think it's the first time we conceded maybe even more than 2 in the league. I might be wrong, but the defence actually been pretty good this season, and then be that the whole unit or the defence itself, it was just a bit of a disaster in that first 20 minutes of the week.
Yeah, it was pretty much game over after 20 minutes. Look, for all Johnson's tactics, you don't, within the tactics, count on individual errors or mistakes or whatever. So I don't think, I think he's maybe been brave going to Celtic Park and trying to press and be quite open. But look, I think I said that at the start of the season, I'd rather see us go there and try and be brave and try and press them than do what everyone else does and sit in and try and soak it up. I'd rather we were brave. Maybe a little bit of naivety for the players as well. I think they should be more aware of what's going on and reading the game a little bit better. But let's not get it wrong. Celtic are a top team. They've got a very, very good way of playing that can be quite unpredictable at times. But it is a learning curve.
There isn't much unpredictability about what they were doing at the weekend, though, is there? Just fucking bomb us, didn't
they? Yeah, I know. I mean, look, they press, and then their wingers, their fullbacks sort of come in field and turn into midfielders, and they've got the ability to do that. But it's a learning curve. We've got Ibrox in a couple of months' time. He needs to learn from it. He needs to be settled down a little bit. But at the same time, that the players let him down as well. And what he said after the game, he was right. Look, if players aren't going to change, then they won't be there. And that's the way it should be. If players aren't going to play the way that he wants to, then they shouldn't be there.
Yeah. I don't think there's any merit or necessarily that any one player deserves any direct criticism above anyone else. I think blanket everyone was sort of way below the levels that they generally performed to. Like, we will come on to, obviously we've now played everyone in the league and we are sitting in third place, so we can be happy enough. Like, yeah, there's been some shite in there. But generally this season, the majority of the squad have performed to a pretty good level, and it's difficult, isn't it? Like, going to Celtic Park, you don't want to write it off. I don't think any of us are free hit sort of guys. Like, I think we go to these games expecting the team to put up a fight and to try and do something to come away with a positive result, be that a point or 3 points. But I think we've also seen in the past where, Sean Maloney went to Celtic Park after the winter break last year, and by all accounts, I think Hibs played well. Did we even potentially have like more of the ball, created good chances? Obviously, Nisbet missed a sit, and you come away from that game thinking, right, okay, we've not got anything, but we played pretty well. I think Jack Ross maybe in one of his first games at Celtic Park as well. I think we pretty much played them off the pitch in the first half, but went in 2-0 down, and then I think he totally shut up shop at halftime, and then he learnt from that, didn't he? I think we then potentially got points off Celtic at Easter Road, playing a lot more pragmatic, shall we say, in the first 45 minutes. I think, again, it was at the game that ended 2-2 maybe at Easter Road, having 2-0 up. Like, at halftime, we make 4 changes, but it certainly wasn't shutting shop. Were you surprised, Harry, with the players that came on?
I think it was a complete change of system, to be fair. It's probably what I think we'll set up next time that we go to a game like that. So, but that's the thing as well. Like, as I say, I don't mind someone making a mistake as long as they're going to make up for the mistake. It's not like losing this game's put us into a relegation battle or anything. Realistically, we've been beat off a team who 9 times out of 10 when we go there, we're going to get beat there, which is proven in our record. So for me, obviously, you lose 3-1 instead of 3-0 in the second half, but I think overall the performance structurally did look a lot stronger. So for me, it was the right change to make, even though it didn't pay too much dividends come the end of the game.
Yeah, Greg, any of the players that came on at halftime, or even later in the game, do you think they've done enough to either get back into the starting 11 or force their way into the starting 11 for next week?
I mean, I guess you need to look at Jan and he scored. This is like that game was the first he's been taken out of the team. So on the bench, he comes on and scores. So I think you'll find he'll be back in from the start. I don't think McCurdy done enough to retain his place. It was disappointing for him, to be fair. However, you look at the circumstances. Look, it's his first start. He's away to Celtic Park, so I don't think we should be caring the guy too much. I think there is more to come from him. I think Kyle McGuinness is possibly playing his way into contention purely because he's fit again. 45 minutes under the belt again, so he's definitely working his way back. And I think when he's back to full fitness, he will he'll be starting possibly with someone like Campbell, who I feel sort of stagnated in the last few weeks. Maybe not been as good. Don't think he was great against Motherwell. He was okay, but don't really think he impacted the game a lot. So I feel like McGuinness may come in fine, but it's pretty much a like for like as well.
Yeah. See, were you surprised that Campbell was operated at right wing back in the second half? I believe that's where he ended up anyway after the shuffle. And because obviously Cadden came off, and
Cadden was having a shocker.
Well, yeah, this is it. But
that's 2 back-to-back.
He did have a bad game, but also he was entirely exposed. That was probably. But now again, I don't know if it's instruction, but that's probably the least effective Boyle's been in our own defensive third against the team that ultimately you can't afford to do that against. Of all the games for him to get sort of subbed after a poorer start to the season, it was thought interesting maybe that it was the weekend.
Yeah, I wouldn't have taken him off, to be honest. Like he's used to playing that as his position. He's used to playing there. You take Campbell, who's operated further up the pitch, and put him at right wing back or whatever, then it's not going to have the same effect. I mean, we can see the same amount of goals in the first half and the second half, so it doesn't really matter. But ultimately, I think that I'd rather have a player who's playing poorly in their own position and a player who's maybe doing okay at a push in a different position to what they're used to, more defensive than usual. I think I'd rather have the player that's playing poorly.
Right, so we're not dissecting any of the goals individually. The second half, like Harry said, it probably was better. Albeit you still conceded 3 goals. We did score a good goal. It was a good goal.
Yeah.
It was a cracker, to be fair.
There's circumstances around that as well that we're going to talk about later, because we've had questions about Yuan and sort of stuff that came after the goal and then on social media after as well. And we'll talk about that later on. Like I said, disappointing week, but we're now a quarter of the season. I always say quarter of the season. We're more than a quarter of the season through, but we've played everyone once. We're sitting in third place in the league, albeit we have played sort of one more game than sort of everyone else behind us in terms of Aberdeen, St Mirren, Hearts, Livy. Greg, how would you assess the sort of first period under Lee Johnson?
Definitely room for improvement. Games just spring to mind are Livy away. But at the same time, I think we've seen some good stuff. I think we've seen some signs, and look, the first part of the season, after the first round of games, we're never going to be saying, "Oh, this is unbelievable. I would change nothing," because he's a new manager. He's come in, different league, still trying to find his feet. We've definitely improved in recent weeks, but I think even before then, we've seen some good signs. So, obviously, there's room for improvement, but I think we're on the right path. The result of the weekend is a bit of tanking, but I don't think it'll affect us too much. I think we'll see big character from the team again on Friday night, and I think we'll have a strong second round. Certainly, I feel.
Harry, 11 games, 5 wins, 2 draws, 4 defeats. Would you have probably, excuse me, expected us to be about there, do you think, in this first period?
I'm still surprised at how well we've done at home, to be honest. Surprised and impressed. I think, as Greg said, definitely room for improvement across the board, but I think we have seen a marked improvement from last season, which is all we could have asked for, to be honest. But yeah, for me, if we keep up the home form, then I think that we'll do really well. And if you'd said to me at the start, even if we'd had the game in hand, you'll be third in the league after 11 games, I 100% would have taken it. So yeah, as Greg said, don't want to run away and be too positive, but I think in comparison to what we've seen a lot last season, I'm pretty happy with where we're at, to be honest.
Do you think Hibs are just one of, right now, a number of clubs that are like, what's it, looking promising? You could probably say the same about Aberdeen. Obviously, we've seen them at Easter Road and really weren't that impressed, but at home they seem to be looking pretty decent, to be honest. I think we have to be honest that up at Pataudra they're doing all right. Away from home they're struggling a lot. Maybe not too dissimilar ourselves. You've got St Mirren and Livingston, who you'd maybe expect to fade away, but are both proving good, and Hearts have obviously hit a little bit of a tricky spell. Is it now important in between now and the World Cup in the sort of first half of the next round of fixtures, if you like, that we start to take advantage of what is a decent run of fixtures to try and really cement ourselves in third place before the World Cup?
For me, I would be disappointed and a bit frustrated if we're out the top 6. I think the top 6 needs to be the minimum expectation by the World Cup, especially given the run of games we've got. I don't think they're particularly difficult, and I don't think it's too much to ask that the club maintain at least the level of football we're playing. Obviously, the last 2 weeks will put a bit of a taint on it, but I think that there's been a lot more positivity around the club in general this season. And I think that if we fell out the top 6 by the time the World Cup crept round, because I think we're at maybe like 6 games left now, or maybe 5, I'm not sure. But yeah, I'd be devastated, to be honest, if we were sitting 7th or lower by the time the World Cup crept round, and it wouldn't be good enough.
Greg, you mentioned character on Friday night, but maybe a little bit in this little period that's coming. Do you think we will stay where we are currently and really start to show our teeth a little bit in the season?
I'd be disappointed, frustrated, and probably a bit angry if we were anything below 4th, to be honest. I think the next 6 games is a decent run before we get a break. I think we can certainly cement ourselves in 3rd and 4th place. after the fixtures, I think going into the World Cup, we will be either third or fourth, and anything on that will be a disappointment. I know Harry says anywhere in the bottom six, but for me, I think we need to be aiming above that, and if we're not in third or fourth, then to me that will be disappointing and incredibly frustrating, because I feel like we've done well lately, obviously in the last two games. I feel like we have done well lately. We look to be building something, but look, we've had two disappointing results. It's all down to character and how the team bounced back from this.
Yeah, we've got back-to-back home games, Harry, where obviously we have been strong at Easter Road this season, unbeaten still. From off the top of my head, has it maybe been 5 at home, 6 away?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because we've lost 4 away from home, I think, and 1-2. Do you expect us to go and take 6 points off of St Johnstone and St Mirren in the coming weeks?
I'd like to think so, and off the basis of the St Johnstone game, first game of the season, I think that we've got a really good chance. St Mirren obviously completely neutralised us. They scored after 2 minutes and didn't do anything the rest of the game, and we just couldn't make anything happen apart from Yuan missing an absolute sitter. So we need to play a lot better against St Mirren, but I think realistically we should be expecting 6 points out of 6 from them.
Cool. Right, before we move fully on to the St Johnstone game, Greg, if you were to just sort of put a number out of 10 on the first round of fixtures, it would have been good to have Liam on tonight. I believe first round of fixtures quantifies as an adequate sample size as opposed to a small sample size. So where are you out of 10 on Lee Johnson and Hibs so far this season? If you want to take them as separates or as a together, that's absolutely
fine. 6.75, I would say, out of 10. He's verging on a 7, but he's not quite there.
Okay. Had it not been such a scudding at the weekend, would we have been on a 7 potentially?
I think if we hadn't had a scudding at the weekend and we'd done something last Tuesday, it would have been a 7 and above. But due to those two results, I think the manner of the defeat on Saturday was probably the most disappointing thing. So I would say 6.75 out of 10 over the piece.
Aye.
If I'm going to break it down separately, because I like to mix these things up. If I was to rate Johnson alone, I'd give him an 8, because I think that he personally is doing a lot of things to change a lot of things at the club. But if I was to give the squad in general, I'd give them a 6, because I think there is some character issues and just consistency issues in the team. And I'm still not happy at the centre back situation and think we need another in. But yeah, so overall between them all, I'd give a 7.
I think
I would give him a 2 for his jacket at the weekend, though. Looks like he's nabbed that square off Del Boy. Shocker.
I do agree with both of you. I think I'm in that sort of 6.5, 7, maybe a push in 7.5. I think one thing I would have to say is if I wouldn't have expected to be sitting third at this point of the season. Especially after the League Cup, we're not even factoring that in. But the last 2 results have been hard to swallow. But I think we've got a chance now with back-to-back home games to really kick on, and I expect that we'll do that. And hopefully we position ourselves well to really kick on, like I've said a million times, after the World Cup. But there is still, I think it's 5 games before the World Cup. So, and there's a good run of fixtures before we go to Ibrox after that. And that's on the Thursday night now as well. I think Sky have picked it up, which is utter shite, but hey, Thursday night. Anyway, right, St Johnstone on Friday. It looks like it's going to be a packed out Easter Road again. East and West stands are sold out. I think 5 or 6 tickets were available this afternoon in the famous 5 lower. And the South Lower's been opened up as well. South Lower's sold out pretty much as well, I believe. Am I right in saying it was football for a fiver? Is that again?
Yeah.
I think let's talk about that before we even go on to the game. Same team, obviously. It's a Friday night as opposed to Saturday, but do you think there is, the more we see it, some more merit potentially around lowering the ticket prices more permanently? Obviously, who knows? We don't know the financials, but if we can get this regular a turnout, surely it would balance the books at least.
For
What,
my opinion, for on you go.
sorry, Harry. What I liked is you could donate a ticket for a fiver as well. Obviously, we're well aware of the situation at the moment where the prices going up and the cost of living going up. So I think that's a really, really good incentive by the club to look to get fans back in. People might not be able to afford it every month, but the fact that fans can donate a ticket, I think is a really, really good idea. Means that it's not going to harm the club in any way. You know, the supporters are coming in the door. So I think there's definitely a lot of merit to it. I think if we could do this even once every 2 months or whatever, I don't know.
And once
what
around the
thinking,
fixtures or something,
yeah, then I think it's only going to be positive for the club. You're only going to see positive results. And like a packed out stadium on a Friday night, it's exciting. Obviously, you need the team to perform on the pitch, but I think they'll get a lot of backing from the stands, and that's really good to see because look, let's be honest, we've seen poor attendances in the last sort of couple of years due to form or whatever, but we need to get the fans back in and get the fans back interested in the football club.
Harry, obviously it was. I think it was announced as Football for a Fiver. Then it got moved to the Friday night. I might be wrong. It might have got announced all at once. But Friday nights seem to be something that Hibs, Aberdeen, obviously Dundee United tried something out of a later kickoff time. Where'd you land on the maybe moving games not for the telly out of that sort of traditional 3 o'clock spot?
It's good. It's bizarre because I still don't really know the logic behind it, to be honest. Because for me, if you're a football fan, for the most part, you probably got your 3 o'clock on a Saturday set. But yeah, no, as long as it's not like messing up with anybody that regularly goes to the games, it makes sense for me. Do you guys know the logic behind it yet? Because
I don't know if it's
just kind of
to see if it. I don't know. Like
testing the water.
I have no idea because obviously 3 o'clock on a Saturday, what you would think for a lot of people is the most attractive option of kickoff times. It's a difficult balance. Obviously, you have a lot of people that work on Saturdays. Maybe you don't have as many people that work on Friday night. But obviously, in my family, we'll be one down on Friday because we've got night shift workers. So, I'm not sure.
Because the thing is for me, like I reckon since COVID, because like when I was younger and there wasn't a Hibs game on a Saturday, I'd always sit and watch Gillette Soccer Saturday. But I don't know if it's just the circles I'm in now, but nobody really cares for that type of thing anymore. Like,
shite, that's why.
yeah, no, but yeah, no, I'm all for it. And in terms of the fiver thing, I think football's a game for the working class. I think that football brings a lot as a source of joy to a lot of people. The fact that can be brought to people for only a fiver instead of having to shed out ridiculous loads of money. I think that Hibs have been one of the most guilty parties in Scotland for overcharging for ticket prices. So the fact that we can get fans in the local area and from St Johnstone's point of view as well down to the game for a fiver is fantastic. And from my point of view, unless it's going to bankrupt the club, it's something that we should be looking to do as much as possible. I'm happy to pay my season ticket price at the price I pay, and I don't care if people can afford to get in at a much cheaper price, and that's the way that they can access the game. Then I'm all for it. It's definitely something. It's fantastic. The club are doing it. It's definitely something we should look to do more often, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely not all about folk moaning about it. People who say, "Oh, well, I paid my season ticket for this and that," but you know what you're paying for. You know that through the season there may be a reduction in ticket prices.
I think you still make money on it as well, though. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's great because it means that people who maybe weren't as enamoured with the club and maybe fallen out with the club or whatever. I'm sure we've done on many occasions, but still turn up every week. I'm sure they ain't got a fiver. Let's go down and see what's happening and etc. So I think it's a positive thing, and people moaning need to look at the bigger picture 100%.
Yeah, because the thing is, you know your own situation as well. When you're buying your season ticket, you're not buying it thinking like, "Oh, I need to get a discount of a fiver." Like,
aye. Look, I mean, yeah, I'm sure it's all factored in, and season tickets themselves are probably a big reason that you'll never see a permanent drop to because it is a massive income source for the club as well. Obviously, we that's how we I think we all value our seat, to an extent. Obviously, Greg, you had issues this summer, but
yeah, no, definitely, but moved to the row behind, which has actually worked out quite well. So,
right, let's get to the actual game. St Johnstone, they've definitely improved since the first game of the season. Obviously, I think they won at Tannadice just before Dundee United, then got their back-to-back wins. Off the top of my head, I can't. They drew with Livingston at the weekend, I think, at the Armandale.
Livy beat them.
Oh, did Livy beat them? Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was a draw as well.
Apologies, I thought it was a draw. Anyway, right. What do we expect, Greg, from St Johnstone?
Just the usual. Stubborn. Sitting in. Probably a little bit dangerous on the break, but at the same time, they will be physical. All over the pitch. I think maybe not got any standout players other than Halberg, but I think they will always pose a threat. Maybe not through their own good work, but I think you always know what you get with St Johnstone, no matter who the manager is or who's playing.
Percentage football, isn't it?
He'll always be difficult to break down. They'll sometimes a bit of a long ball team, but I think even after the last two results, we've still got enough to pass our way through them, be successful in the game, but it probably will be a bit of a battle, and that's what they want. They want it to be a battle. So
yeah,
if we can try and play our football, play our way, then I think we'll be okay.
Obviously, last time St Johnstone came to Easter Road, it was the last day of last season. It was an interesting day, and a total dead rubber. I think they were already secured to be in the playoff, and they dressed the players, and obviously Hibs were on their holidays, and James Scott scored a hat-trick. Are they maybe for everything that Greg just said, maybe one of the worst teams for us to be playing in what's likely to be a sold-out Easter Road on the back of two defeats? Had we come in off this having maybe beat Dundee United in a better show at Celtic Park, the crowd's going to be 100% behind the team. But if things start slower, like against a team like this, that it's going to be stuffy. I'd imagine. I don't think we're going to go out and blow them away. Is there a risk that they could really, really frustrate Easter Road?
I think that they play like a cowardly style of football, to be honest, in the sense that they'll just sit in and, as you say, they'll just, like, St Johnstone literally come to Easter Road and try not to get beat, get one chance and score. And that's literally the only way they ever get points. They never come out at us. But I think that the way we play football, if we set up the way we did at Celtic Park, I think that in the first half, I think we'll have a lot of success. I think a good thing about this Lee Johnson side is we start games really well, and as you say, we need to get the fans on site. We're going to have a lot of fans in there, so I think the fast starts that we've been seeing this season is definitely something that's pivotal to this game, because as soon as you score against this St Johnstone team, they have to come out and they have to try and get something out of the game. So for me, I just think that fast start's really, really important, because I think that because how far they sit back, building momentum against them is really easy. Because that's the thing, like, you've seen games, like, I've only based this on sports, I've seen games with them in which they actually look like they can play a bit. But in that first game of the season, because we started on the front foot, we kind of kept our foot on the gas. Like, we just kept knocking them back. So for me, it's completely in Hibs' hands if we want to dominate this game. It's not a difficult task against a really poor St Johnstone team. You seem absolutely outraged by that random technical error that's went on there.
Sorry, mate, I was on the truth. I was actually fanning about with an Allen key and just dropped it.
Nah. But yeah, no, for me, I think that fast start is really important. And as you say, if it's not a fast start and St Johnstone get an early goal, then the Boo Boys might be back at Easter Road if we're looking like 3 defeats on the spin.
I don't think Hibs fans are stupid, though.
I think we should. I think we need to caveat that our fast starts have only been at home.
Expect it to be slow. If I'm honest, I think some Hibs fans will expect it to be slow and that we'll struggle against St Johnstone, because that seems to be what is known as the norm. But I don't necessarily think the stats back that up. But I always feel like we do maybe struggle against St Johnstone every single time.
Because there was a mad stat. I think it got dispelled last year, but I think we went on a spell of us not losing at McDermott Park for like 5 games and them not losing at Easter Road for like 6 games. So we just kept going to the other person's turf and battering them. It was really bizarre.
Yeah, I don't really buy into the. It definitely got arms and legs in the COVID season because of the cups, but I don't buy into the St Johnstone being our bogey team. I think a team like St Johnstone are generally they're rarely going to get blown out of games. Like I think that's maybe said about them earlier. They're stuffy. Like they'll probably make. I think Hearts haven't won at McDermott for donkeys. Maybe they won their last season. So like there's they do have that impact on teams. I think everyone generally has a difficult game against them. Celtic was it then St Johnstone equalised in injury time, and Celtic scored right after.
96th minute.
Right, so it'll be difficult, but I think this team's got enough about them to get past them and fairly comfortably. Maybe 2 or 3, but not a pumping. Where are we at team wise? What would you like to see, Harry? There was 1 change at the weekend, but then 4 changes at half time. Where would you be going?
I'd probably revert back to the team that we saw start.
Sorry, there was 2 changes at Celtic Park. Sorry, I keep forgetting Stevenson came in for Tribune.
Aye. And I feel bad as well because Stevenson wasn't great, but let's not say he's completely done he played in an exposed formation at Celtic Park. It was never going to go good for him. Stevenson can definitely still do an adequate job for Hibs, but just not at Celtic Park, apparently. But yeah, I'd take him out the team that said and put Chabraya back in. For me, I'd probably start the same team that we've seen for the most part since the transfer window. For me, I really like McCurdy's energy. I've not really seen anything from him that indicates he deserves a start as of yet. So for me, I'd probably keep on bringing him off the bench. So I bring Yuan back in as well, just because he's got that goal. And for me, even though the formation really didn't work at Celtic Park, I think it is the type of thing like getting in behind the slow fullbacks that St Johnstone have isn't overly difficult. I think if you got Yuan and Boyle on each wing, it's definitely something like that's where we need to get at them. And that keeper as well. I don't know if he's improved since the first day, but he was flapping. So we need to get shots in at him.
What about yourself, Greg? Would you be looking at a lot of changes, different formation, or sort of back to the norm as Harry's talking about?
I think I'd probably go back to the norm, to be honest. And that probably sounds very boring. But I think Yuan deserves a start after his goal. I want to see him score more goals. Maybe that'll give him a bit more confidence. And I'd bring Chabraya back in as well. I don't think Stevenson done enough to keep his place. I know we know what he can do, but I think on Saturday he was very poor and was obviously at fault for the first goal. So I'd bring Chabraya back in and bring Yuan back in. I think McCurdy maybe still needs a little bit of time. And that's coming off the bench. That's definitely not at the moment.
Yeah, I think for me, Yuan probably scoring the goal gets you back in. I think, doesn't it? I think that's pretty much a given. Chabraya will definitely come back in. The midfield's an interesting one for me. I sort of agree with what you said earlier, Greg, about Josh Campbell. He's not been bad, but he's not been as impactful as he had been probably in the few games prior to the sort of Motherwell game. But is it enough to, he's still performing to a decent level, and he is ultimately still joint top goal scorer with Martin Boyle. So Noah Kenna's one that seems to get a lot of criticism anytime Hibs lose this season, but I'm a big believer in that he's probably the only player in our team that can do that job in front of the back four. And I do think he just makes he lets Joe Newell play a little bit further advanced, whether it's Kyle McGuinness or Josh Campbell, he lets them play a little bit further advanced. So for me, I'd probably just edge with the 2 changes that you guys spoke about, but I think it might be the game to start Kyle McGuinness. And I don't know I'm not sure who that'll be in place of. I think it'll either be Campbell or Kenna. If it was me, I'd probably go for Campbell. But again, I wouldn't be against the exact same team as what you guys have spoke about.
My only thing with McGuinness, I know that his injuries for the most part haven't really been impact, but as we've touched on, St Johnstone are a very physical team, and they'll know that Kyle McGuinness is coming off an injury, and they're the type of team that I think would get fully stuck right into him. So I'm all for getting Kyle McGuinness back in the starting 11. You know I love me some Kyle McGuinness. But St Johnstone on a Friday night in front of a packed at Easter Road, I reckon he'd be getting scudded a couple of times, and I don't know if that would be particularly healthy for him.
No agreeing there because he came off the bench against Motherwell and smashed the boy. So
that's because he was the one doing the smashing, no getting smashed.
Yeah, I think he's okay. I
was going to say he certainly hasn't been holding back.
He's not been shy.
No. I think we also need to normalise. I'm probably shouting about this the most last season. Now you don't need to play a holding mid, defensive mid against teams other than Hearts, Celtic, Rangers, whatever. But I think the way that Kenna plays, he definitely does impact the game as well going forward, and he does allow Newell and whoever else in midfield to get further forward. So I think this is a holding midfield player that's maybe more defensive minded that I don't mind playing every week. I think he is that player. He's 19, he's going to make mistakes, but I do think some of the criticism he's had is well beyond it, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, was it the 6th goal or the 5th goal that he did have a howler for? But again,
he is 19 to be fair. And you know what? I'd rather he was making mistakes, trying to do things, and being boring and negative. So I don't think he's an overly negative holding player. I think he does like to get forward, and he can definitely make things happen. And he does allow the other two to get further forward. So I think having him there complements the midfield, and it's a midfield that maybe we've lambasted for long enough. But I think we finally found a player that can bring out the best in everyone.
Yeah, it is very similar, isn't it, back to the sort of championship days around Marvin Bartley. Anytime we were slow and sort of breaking teams down, if Bartley was on the pitch, it was, why is he can't he pass the ball, he can't do this, he can't do that. And then it was, in the bigger games, he needs to play this, So, yeah, I think Kenna deserves to play. Again, I'll go back. I don't think anyone was particularly worse than anyone else at the weekend, but he definitely seemed to get, again, pinpointed. Obviously, look, it was probably, well, if we're being honest, Marshall's error was more obvious than what Ken had done. You know, it wasn't great. But yeah, I would keep him in the team. Cadden handling poach issues, that sort of three is the two centre backs and the right back. Does that stay put?
If Miller was fit, I'd start Miller, to be honest. The only reason Cadden's in there is because he's our only fit fullback, in my opinion.
Miller's got a hamstring injury, so
yeah, apparently he's on the road to recovery. But for me, Cadden, I think he had a good spell when we were winning games, but every time we're losing games, he's looked really bad.
I think Cadden's got something to prove on Friday anyway. I would agree. I think that he's been poor for a couple of games now. It was terrible for the goal against Dundee United, but you know, let's normalise players making mistakes. That's why the Hibs are not going to have perfect games all the time. They're going to go through stages where maybe they aren't as good, but you know, let's allow them the chance to make mistakes and bounce back from it. I don't think we should be slaughtering players for making mistakes because they play for a Birmingham Football Club. They're not going to be perfect all the time. Let's be honest. No player is perfect all the time. So.
No, even at the top.
I fully agree with that. I'm not saying that Cadden has to be. I'm just saying if there was an option to drop him at this point, I would, because I don't think his performances have warranted starting every week.
Cool. Right.
But then does Lewis Miller warrant starting, or is it just because Cadden's been shite?
But then what's Miller done wrong then? For every chance that Cadden deserves it, Miller deserves it.
Oh, we could go on about this all. We could go on about this all day. Right. Harry, it's your score predictions, please. Harry, you first.
I reckon we start off quick and we win 5-0.
Nice. Greg?
I think I'll be 1-0 Hibs.
I'm going for a not all that comfortable 3-0. I know that a goal in the first half and then a couple of late ones. But feeling sort of first 20 minutes of the second half that we're up against it, if that makes any sort of sense. Right, Harry, it's your favourite part of the show. listener questions. We shall start where we normally finish.
Oh,
Because he was first in today.
some boy.
He deserves to be
Yes, some
first.
boy.
John McIntosh has sent us 2 questions. First, of course, is what did we all have for dinner? Have we all ate?
Yep.
Right, Harry, you first.
I'm coming up to Scotland this week, so I've not actually got my Gusto box. So I went for do you know the warehouse that you get, like the Iceland one? So it's not actually
Food
Iceland; it's called
warehouse,
warehouse. Aye, I've got it was a butter chicken. It was actually quite good.
Nice, mate. Greg?
I had pasta for dinner tonight.
We need specifics, Greg. What
No,
type
I
of
was going to
pasta?
say I cooked up.
It was a bit of a makeshift pasta, to be fair. Had leftover meat. I had peppers, mushrooms, stuck it all in. Mascarpone sauce. So the
Solid
remainder for my
choice.
lunch tomorrow.
Nice, mate.
Solid choice, Mr. Lumsden.
Well, we had to.
I made it myself as well, so
Oh,
there's no credit to lead tonight, unfortunately.
I was also cooking in this household. I also went for pasta. We have not done the shop yet, so we had a chicken and pepperoni creamy tomato tagliatelle. It was absolutely fucking magnificent. Magnificent. It was magnificent.
Magnificent.
It was superb. If I do say so myself, that got demolished about 10 minutes before coming on here. Right, John's second question. Now we've got that out of the way. How many points should we expect to pick up before the World Cup break? Games are St Johnstone and St Mirren at home, followed by Aberdeen away, County at home, Kelly away. He says expect to pick up. Harry.
I'll say 9. I'd say 9's my minimum.
Again, that's the thing. Is your expectations your minimum expectations or like your top end expectation?
Because for the most part, if Hibs go through a season and win 3 out of 5 games, I think that's probably going to end as a pretty good season.
Okay, Greg?
Win, so there's 6.
Mm-hmm.
Aberdeen away, draw. County at home, probably get beat. And then, what's the last one?
Kelly away.
Oh, I hate that place. I'll go for a win there, though. We can add them up.
You are going for 10 points if you're sticking with
Mhm.
County. You're beating us at Easter Road.
Yeah. Probably still wouldn't be happy with that. I would expect a couple of points in there, but I think no less than 10 anyway.
Yeah, I would be looking at 10. I'd expect us to win the 3 games at Easter Road. They're the 3 games that if you want to finish third, you probably need to win. I think Aberdeen take care of St Johnstone, St Mirren County at home. I think Hearts probably take care of them as well. And then Aberdeen and Kelly away. I'd expect us not to lose both of them. I know that sounds maybe incredibly negative, but yeah, I would go on 10 as my minimum expectation because I'd be really disappointed if we drop points in any of the 3 home games. Aberdeen do look
Anything less than 10 would be deemed unacceptable in my eyes.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because we know it's difficult. There's going to be at least a couple of them are midweek, I think. I think the county game actually moved forward a day as well. But it's a good chance to build momentum going into the World Cup, and it is a good run of fixtures. And we come back to maybe not so pretty set of fixtures. So we're all in agreement, probably 9-10 minimum, and then it's really win your 3 home games and see what we do away from home in it. Let's be honest, that's sort of where we're at. Right, next question, Jeff Ashton. Couple of questions again. 3-5-2 or 4-3-3. Did the formation change at halftime make us more solid, and was it just individual mistakes that undid us, or did it make no difference at all? I don't think we generally looked more solid in the 3-5-2, and then really just sort of chucked it in the last 5-10.
Yeah, I
Scored
think
a goal, I suppose, but then you also consider the same amount. So really, on the whole, there's probably no difference defensively.
I think in terms of quantity of chances, I think they were carving us apart a bit easier in the first half, to be honest.
Yeah, I would agree. There is definitely that, you see commentators or pundits, your Graham Souness or your Roy Keanes or whoever. It's easy to play when you're 3-0 down. Maybe the other, but again, Celtic probably, well, they like to say they don't stop in that, so you'd expect that they were still sort of trying to play at the same intensity. Look, we were definitely there in the second half, but I don't think there's any argument there. Jeff's second question, and he has stated these, Harry, very clearly as questions and not statements, by the way. What changes for Friday? Mitchell McGuinness in from the start, keep Yuan in, Rocky. Obviously, we have just ran through our lineups there, and the only ones we've mentioned there would potentially be McGuinness and Yuan, but Rocky, Mitchell, in with a shout potentially.
I don't think Mitchell's near it yet, but I feel bad for Rocky because I don't think Rocky's had a bad game this season, to be honest, off the top of my head. But Porteous is a better player. Hanlon, in my opinion, suits better because he's left-footed. So I don't see any reason. And I don't want us to revert back to three at the back with only three. Well, I suppose we've got that fish boy as well, but three proven centre backs. I don't think we should rock with three at the back.
Greg,
I'm happy with the changes I made. To be honest, I think Porteous and Hanlon have looked better. Well, albeit they got pumped at the weekend, but I think they have looked better. We've looked better defensively, so I don't think there needs to be a knee-jerk reaction and make hundreds of changes.
Cool. Right. Billy, King of the North. Our fans, right, this is where I think we're going to have quite a bit of chunkiness on this. Our fans right to get on Yuan's case for posting his goal on his Instagram story. Some fans are furious with not only posting it, but the celebration as well. Some saying it's fine as it's his first goal for the club, others saying it shows terrible attitude. What are your thoughts on it? I'll maybe just jump in first here. I'm really unsure. The celebration when he scores, I don't really care. He runs back, he turns around, gets his picture taken, and keeps going. That being said, you see Boyle pretty much screaming at him as he does it as well. So it's timing, isn't it? The Instagram thing, I think, was the most obvious thing that was coming. I think he was always going to do it. I don't know. I half expected it to come. I don't know about you. He very quickly took the montage of his sort of edited montage of the goal down, and I think he put a post up that it's just, your genetic shite about how we learn from defeats and all that push. Where do you guys land on it? I'm really in the middle on it. I don't think it's great, but I really don't think it's that big a deal.
I'll go first. I personally think he's a young lad from a different country that's probably quite excited. He scored against the biggest team in the country. For me, it's not going to dent his performance on the field if he's posting videos off it. I don't think it's the best look to be celebrating defeats. But what our neighbours from the other side of Edinburgh can show is it's nowhere near as embarrassing as putting up 2 goals and a 5-1 defeat.
One goal and a post hit.
Yeah, God, that was embarrassing. But yeah, no, for me, look, it's his own personal Instagram. I genuinely don't have any problem with it. It's not the type of thing I'm going to lose sleep over, and it's not any type. It's not like he's done something offensive. He's a young boy that's happy that he scored a goal, albeit not the best circumstances to have scored in. But I'm not knocking him for it.
Greg, you wouldn't catch Roy Keane doing that, would you?
That's his job. I think you know what's coming. I'm not impressed. I don't think he needs to be celebrating. You're 3-1 down. Time to go to absolutely get back in the game fully, but don't celebrate. Go and get the ball and let's go again. You can celebrate whenever maybe score an equaliser or the winner. I don't think you need to be celebrating when you're 3-1 down. However, it probably looks worse that we went on to get beat 6-1, and it looks worse that we conceded about a minute after. So, look, the montage on Instagram, we see it every week. The players, maybe
before the game, Kukurevich was posting a goal that got fucking disallowed.
Yeah, so selfishly, these players are doing it for their own benefit. Ultimately, for me, I'd rather see them post winners or whatever. Like, Yeah, I'm not impressed. I think someone at the club's probably told him to take it down. And then the Instagram post for learn for losses, I'd rather he didn't do that either. Just put it up, no caption. Doesn't need to be a big deal. If you want to share it, that's fine. But don't put up a caption about learning from losses, because his job is to score goals and help the team win games. So yeah, I maybe been a little bit harsh, but I feel that after what went on Saturday, we need to just get back in it and screw the head. And do you know what? Fair enough, I put up a photo of him training this week. Focus on Friday, whatever, the usual shite they post. I don't mind that, but don't start posting fucking not even consolation goals for the weekend.
Is the consensus here then that it's probably been blown out of proportion just a little bit, albeit it's not great?
Slightly, but at the same time, you understand why people are annoyed. So,
right,
yeah, I think he'll learn from this.
Next,
he'll probably put that on his Instagram as well. Learn from it.
Next up, Jack Kelly, Jack Kell. So,
aye. Why's he been giving me pelters, man?
Has he?
Aye.
Oh fuck! Aye.
Rightly so. To be fair,
BBA looking at what happened on Saturday. So, what are your thoughts on trying Ewan McCurdy at striker, and moving the other out to the left and see what that does? Love both of them and don't want to drop either. That's his first question. So I don't know if is he talking about having?
No, I think he means Kukarevich out wide and then having one of those two through the middle.
No danger.
I don't think Ewan can
Kukarevich is the focal point. He's the one through the middle. The other two, if anything, should be coming off him. There's absolutely no requirement to put him out wide.
I was going to say, I think
I'm not trying to dig players out, but so far I think that Kukarevich has shown more with the ball at his feet than McCurdy has.
Well, I was going to say, I think
Kukarevich. Sample size, Harry.
Kukarevich, albeit hooked at half time at the weekend. I agree with both of you. He probably still earned his place in the team, and would with half decent officiating would have the same amount of goals as Ewan. I do think Ewan. I know Liam's been a big champion of him, these positions coming off the left, and generally I would agree, but I think we've probably seen the best of him when him and Boyle have both played through the middle in sort of a 3-5-2. Boyle's equaliser against Hearts would sort of shifted to a 3-5-2. Rangers, we played 3-5-2, I'm pretty sure as well. And then obviously the second half of the weekend as well. So maybe there is an argument around if he can play down the middle, but he needs the right setup around that as well. I think we've seen enough that he can't play as the focal point in the three. And McCurdy's starting to become an interesting one, isn't it? Because that's his first start, but is at Celtic Park. So how do you judge it? It's difficult, but my answer to that question right now would be no, I wouldn't be looking to do that.
No, I think Kukarevich through the middle. There's just no question about it. He's not the type of player that could play off the wing, I don't think. I'd love to be proved wrong, but I think at the moment you need to play him through the middle. If you was to play anywhere, it'd be on the left and Boyle on the right, and you could maybe go all out and switch the pair over. But other than that, I don't think there needs to be anything else. I think McCurdy's quite unfortunate. His first start's come at Celtic Park and you're 3-0 down after 20 minutes. But yeah, thankless task after that. But I don't know. I think he probably scores Ewan's chance as well. So
cool.
I don't know. I think he maybe still needs time to adapt to the game, but that's purely just because Ewan's had more opportunities, more game time.
Also, Jack, and here comes a dig, Harry. What's your favourite type of juice? In brackets, fizzy juice, so no smoothie, Harry.
When did I drink smoothies?
I was going to say the smoothie's definitely more Liam. But favourite juice. It's easy for me. I don't know about you guys. Dr. Pepper's my favourite fizzy juice by a country mile.
I like Dr. Pepper, but Jesus, it makes you burp.
I'm going basic, bitch. I like my Coke Zero, to be honest.
Coke Zero's probably second. I am Brew then Coke Zero for me. That's pretty
Very basic, Harry.
Indeed, mate, indeed.
Pink Monster, mate. Is
yeah, fucking golf. No.
yeah, nah, mate.
It's
Definitely. I don't golf's like pint cans of juice, mate. But I don't know. It's
Yeah.
like kryptonite, mate.
See the word juice. I say the word juice in here, and I get absolutely fucking battered for it. Pisses me off. Because you get people down in England, they call like juice is literally like something that's been juiced. So like if I say, does anybody want a can of juice? They'll give me a funny look. Like, what do you mean a can of juice? They'll call that fizzy drink. Honestly, it bothers me. I get absolute pelters at work for saying the word juice. So thank God I've got you guys, and I've got everybody else in Scotland who's normal that will say fizzy juice, because these guys didn't think fizzy juice exists.
Fizzy. But it is juice.
Fizzy juice, diluting juice, orange juice, apple juice.
Because see, the thing is, it is, if it's no milk, no alcohol, and no water, it's pretty much juice, isn't it?
Council juice. Easy.
Although I seen some arsehole on TikTok the other day who I think is English, now lives in Scotland, and he's talking about this, how he loves how everyone calls everything a juice in Scotland. And he says that people call milk, what was it? Cow juice. I was like, nah.
It's just a lie.
I was like, nah. Like, no, that doesn't happen. Like,
on the subject of council juice, Harry, it must be tough down in London not being able to drink the water at the tap.
I got pelters for that as well, because the first day I moved in, I went into the office and I said to one of my colleagues, I was like, here, can I drink the water? She was like, what do you mean? I was like, I don't care if it's like Turkey and that. Can you actually drink the tap water down in London? And then I got pelters for it. And it is bogging. Like, you have to put it in the fridge for about 2 hours.
You know,
it genuinely stinks.
You can't keep water in the kettle overnight either, because it
rusts it up. Is it too much sodium or something? I think.
My mum's auntie lives in London, and when we were down visiting, I'm sure they had they had to put like an actual like filter like on there.
Yeah, no, my sister even with my sister got it's like a purifier thing she's got, but like she's kept it even in Scotland now.
Oh, really?
Weirdo.
Right.
Weirdo. They've made it in Scotland, mate. The stuff the council juice that we get is like
gravy.
Elite. It's far and above.
Honestly, ask my auntie. Every time I come to Scotland, I drink about
10 pints of water
plenty.
I'm on the council juice.
Right. UN Mick 99. He does spell his name incorrectly. Right. Are you excited for VAR on Friday at a full Easter Road? Feel like we will bounce back 4-0 Hibs. It'll be interesting. I don't think I'm excited for it, but it'll be interesting.
I hope it's not used.
I was going to say, I hope it
will be used, mate. It's used all the time.
Well, I mean, it gets used, doesn't it, anytime there's a goal. But I hope there's no incidents or tight calls that it's like needed for, if that makes sense. What's your thoughts on it?
If it gets used incorrectly, I want my fiver back. First of all, nah. But seriously, I'm not. I wasn't. It's came at a good time. There's a conspiracy that I've just made up this very second that the reason that they disallowed our goal against Dundee United was so that Hibs fans wouldn't be angry about VAR coming in. I think it's a game killer, to be honest, and the fact it's getting implemented without goal line technology is an absolute joke. Because goal line technology is the only attractive aspect of technology in football, in terms of officiating in football, in my opinion. So I'm not for it at all.
I mean,
as someone that's played with VAR.
Yeah, Greg.
It's shite. Yeah, you need to wait ages on. Well, we waited ages on goals being given. They'll look at everything. They'll draw lines. They'll ask about that. They'll colour bits in. Yeah, it's going to slow the game up, I guess. The one thing for me is the celebrations. You know, you'll be celebrating. In the back of your mind, you'll be thinking, is that a good goal, or is that going to be disallowed?
Do you think that? Do you think that though? Like, obviously, I don't know if you say you watched the City Liverpool game yesterday, and the goal's disallowed. City's players and fans still celebrated normally, I would say. Do you think it's maybe in the lesser games? Maybe you'll be a bit more, like.
No, but then it's a realization that this is going to VAR. I like a dick,
Like the Celtics.
When I played with it, our first goal was being checked. It was a corner. It was being checked for pushes or whatever, and they were checking everything. That is a pain in the arse. We conceded goals, and you're hoping they're offside. So it's a double-edged sword, really.
Do you want to hear my take on how VAR could actually work?
No.
Fair enough. Let's move on.
I am glad that it's that we always have screens at Easter Road now, though. At least you should have a rough idea of what's going on. Like, imagine going up to fucking McDermott, let's say, when we play them again. No screens. Like, you're not going to tell them what's going on, are you? Like, don't know if the announcer will say anything, but aye. Anyway, right.
You know what, though? I think that there needs to be a level of patience, so unfortunately, because this is new. This isn't been going on for that long. They've tried out in amateur games, mate, where there's a lot going on. And in top level games, there's a lot more going on. So I think probably need to be patient. They will probably need to check it quite a lot at the start, and then they'll get used to it maybe. But we do definitely need to be a little bit patient, which is a pain in the arse. That's what it is. I still think they should have brought it in next season for the off and not halfway through this season.
That is a bit of a strange one. Right.
Saying you can't use the phrase at least out over the season.
Right. Richard
asked, trying to get this bed.
When will the fans see that Cadden isn't the issue but lack of support he's receiving? No right back in the world can defend 2v1 situations. Boyle wasn't tracking back enough and our central midfielders weren't following Hatate every time we went on overlaps. Look, I don't think Richard said anything wrong there. Cadden was exposed. Still don't think he had a good game. I'm not sure that the fans are on him though. I know we've said that he's not been playing well. I was probably I was definitely the first person I think on here that highlighted it this season. But I think the interesting one is that ultimately the manager hooked him at half time at the weekend. So it wasn't necessarily just the fans that didn't think he was playing well enough. Where are we at with Cad? I know we spoke about it already, so maybe just briefly.
One thing that we didn't mention earlier is Johnson was talking about the different pressing systems that he's trying to implement in the team, and he said that he was asking them to play a particular way, and the players just weren't. So I don't know if maybe he was given a specific role from Johnson that he wasn't living up to, and maybe that's why he's getting caught in specific situations. Obviously, if you're trying to deal with 2-on-1 or 1-on-2, sorry, it is difficult, but even in 1-on-1 at the moment, I think that Cadden's looked particularly weak, as evidenced by the goal we conceded against Dundee United. I still don't think right back's his natural position, which I think is the main problem, because the reason he was so good last year is he was predominantly playing at right wing back. So yeah, I don't know if we're seeing the best out of him, because I don't think that he's in a position where he's ever going to be at his best, to be honest.
Yeah, again, if
I feel like he's not sure enough desire to get back into position. There was a time against Motherwell where he was totally done, and he's jogging back in. There was also the same at Dundee United, so I think he needs to bring that desire back, just to even get himself in the way of the player and the goal. But I just feel like he's been a little bit lazy lately. He's maybe not shown enough energy or aggression in getting back defensively. So I think that's probably why he was hooked, to be honest, because that's been a few games now.
Cool. Sean Steele asked, Greg, we'll ask you the second quick question, but we'll do first this one.
I should have.
You missed him?
No.
Right, cool. Right, how we went from looking solid defensively to then having 2 losses, conceding 7 and scoring 1, it's pure Hibs. It was one game, innit? Like, yeah, look, I know it's 2 games we've lost, but we didn't lose at Dundee United because of the goal we conceded. You're not going to keep clean sheets in every game. We lost at Dundee United because we couldn't finish our dinner. And the one time we did, the referee called it off. Aye, we were all over the shop at Celtic Park, and we spoke about it enough, but it was a mess. But sometimes as well, you just got, it was good goals Celtic scored. Hibs definitely could have prevented them at different phases, if you like. But no, I'm not that worried about the defence still. What about you, Greg?
I'm not that worried, to be fair. I think scoring more goals and you concede, you win games. That should have been the case at Dundee United. The weekend's a bit of a freak result, to be honest.
Harry?
I think that Marshall got his clangers for the season out in the one game as well, so it means we're back to having our solid best goalkeeper in Scotland, which is nice.
Cool. Harry, I'll come to you first with Kevin Wilson. Your thoughts on Johnson's post-match comments? Personally, find it refreshing to hear our manager questioning the players publicly without crucifying them like Lennon did. Also, the criticism aimed at you and by we virgins on Twitter is pathetic. But the thoughts on Lee Johnson's post-match, his various press conferences, because you got different sort of sound bites from each one.
I can understand why some fans would be frustrated. I think that there's like the only thing that was negative for me is I think the deflection of they should look to learn from these Celtic players. I thought that was quite patronising towards the players, to be honest. That didn't sit too right with me. Realistically, you're the one that's training them every day. You like, why should a Hibs player be asking a Celtic player what they eat in the morning? I know he was kind of saying that tongue in cheek, but for me that just was a really weird comment, and I didn't like that. It just didn't sit good. Apart from that, I like the fact that he openly said I got it wrong in the team that I laid out, and I think he was correct with that. And if you, as I said at the top of the show, if you can identify your own mistakes, you can fix your own mistakes. So for me, apart from I don't know if patronising is the right word, but I'll call it weird. Apart from the weird comments about idolising Celtic players, essentially, I thought that he was pretty spot on with most of the things he said. And Greg, I did find the comment that he indirectly made about you at the end of his question there quite funny.
I didn't do it on Twitter, so he's not calling me that. I'm guessing there's plenty of comments on Twitter about it, but I certainly didn't make one. So it's definitely
right, Greg, Lee Johnson's post-match interviews. What did you make of
them? I think he could have been a bit harder on the players, to be honest, and also a bit harder on himself. But look, he's admitted that he got it wrong. I think he's looking for a response from the players. So yeah, I think like Harry said, I don't think we should be taking notes from Celtic players. I don't think that's the way we should be going about things. I think maybe the players need to self-reflect, and then he also needs to self-reflect on how he's trained that week. But no, I think everyone will learn from it. To be honest, I don't think we need to be asking Celtic players what they're eating and what they do all day, because that's bullshit. To be honest,
I think he out with that probably struck the tone about right. I think was the BBC one. He sort of admitted it was embarrassing. I think the reporter sort of said, "Oh, you won't be judged on that," and you seen his face sort of go, "Well, I think I will be." You know, like we're not coming here to not compete, etc. And I think he got the tone about right. I sort of agree with what Kev said. I think he questioned the players to the right amount, enough on his own shoulders. Yeah, was it PLZ that tweeted that out from the sort of wider press one? Not great, but again, you sort of see what he's saying around. I think he got it about right, albeit that comment maybe not so much, but the general tone of what he said after the games. It certainly probably calmed me down a lot, and I think it helped. But yeah, next question, Aki. Will VAR fundamentally change anything with the standard the refereeing? With this allowed goal at Dundee United as an example, would VAR give greater clarity on what the goal is being chopped off for? I'll come in straight away. No, I don't think it will give any better standard of refereeing. In theory, I suppose you should get more decisions correct, but I don't think it would change the standard of refereeing, because if VAR is coming in, that means they've got something wrong. But it should give more clarity if things are called off, I would say. Like you could watch Sports Scene that night after the Dundee United game, and you should be able to see clearer what the goal was disallowed for. I think that's a bad incident, because if they still called that off, then it would have been as clear as mud still. But for different instances, yes, it should give more clarity, I would think.
Yeah, I think that as well. It says checking possible offside or checking possible foul. So you know, and then you'll see it, and then you'll think, oh, that should be the right decision. With it all going well, I think they will get more right because of the VAR, though. But look, everything's going to be checked in terms of goals, so I don't think the standard refereeing could change there unless the referee spotted something straight away.
Harry?
I think VAR brings an issue. The main problem I've got with VAR is that they slow it down and they pause it. I think, as Greg said not earlier, I'm going to say my opinion anyway. I think the way to fix VAR is to let them watch it at full speed and then make a decision. And if they can't come to a decision that it's obviously needing change, then just keep the decision the same way that they kept it on the field. Because for me, football's not played in slow motion. It's not played in freeze frames. And if you look at things from a different perspective to real life, you get different results. So for me, it's gonna the way I put it, you don't give a monkey keys to a car and expect them to drive. It's still a monkey. These referees aren't good at their jobs, and giving them VAR to play with isn't going to make them better. They need proper support made full time and maybe mic'd up so that the fans can actually understand what's going on in their heads, because at the moment they're just dehumanized and disliked actively by every fan base in the country, and VAR is going to be another mechanism for fans to hate them even more.
Aye. I agree. Aye.
that was quite a mic drop moment. That was a good rant there, if I do say so myself.
Just a shame your connection just went the fuck after it when you were celebrating it. Well, what would have been the last question from Dav? We've actually already covered off. It was about the UN stuff. So Dav, I hope we have covered that off to your satisfaction. And finally, Harry, we're going to finish off on a statement from Jeff Ashton, and it's quite simple. Statement: it's Miller time. So I'm pretty sure that means Jeff's maybe on holiday or whatever. But whatever you're doing, Jeff, have a fucking good time. Hi, bees. Let's hope we all have a good time on Friday night. Hopefully, it's a pretty much sold out Eastern Road. Harry, you're up the road. We're all meeting up before the game. Aye, let's hope for a good Friday night and then a rather enjoyable weekend on the back of it, because that's the one bad thing about a Friday night. If you get beat, your Saturday's fucked. If you win, then crack on. You're going to have a good one. Right, we'll be back next Monday regardless, and thank you very much for listening to us once again. Cheers.
Take care.
Bye.